Hello everyone, this is the Undying Nephilim, and in this video I am going to show you guys the Deku Scrub and the Lizalfos heroes, the hero units, and the Titans for these two factions. These guys have a lot of really cool units that I'm looking forward to showing you guys, and also these guys have three of the coolest Titans in the game. But yeah, I guess I'll just dive right in. And I will start with the Deku Scrubs. The four Deku Scrub heroes are technically all canonical. One of them is kind of canonical, but not exactly. I'll get to him third. But first, we will start with the Deku King. And for some reason, my mouse is busted and the scroll wheel doesn't work properly. And I am a cheap bastard and haven't gotten a replacement yet, so I might struggle to zoom in on some units. Just a heads up. But yeah, the Deku King. Since the Deku Scrub characters in Nintendo canon don't actually have names, I ended up giving them names. And for the Deku King, you can call him King Cuddlecon, or just call him the Deku King if you prefer. But he is, as a unit, he's not particularly strong. He's more of a commander unit where he'll boost the performance of soldiers around him. Like most Deku Scrub units, he can garrison on some of their units and ride them around and turn them into cavalry. So that's probably the best use for him, is to put him on an Orhat Beetle or a giant Orhat Beetle and have him ride around as a cavalry unit. His special abilities focus mostly on creatures, and his unique unit is a creature. He kind of has two unique units, but he can't actually train the smaller ones. You can only train the Peahat Broodmother, which spawns the smaller Peahats. And the Peahat Broodmother is just a very strong hovering creature unit. So it can hover over water and other terrains. And it has splash damage because of the way it attacks, which is more evident when it's moving around. You can see the giant blades spinning around. This is kind of becoming a meme, but when stealth and camouflage are added into the engine, it'll be able to become invisible when it's sitting still like this. Obviously, it won't have that when it moves around. It's kind of hard to move around stealthily when you're a giant lawnmower blade. But yeah, that is the Deku King's unique unit, the Peahat Broodmother and its little babies. So the next hero that the Deku Scrubs have is the Deku Princess, whose name in Nephi canon is Katakana. And she is kind of a ranged and support hero. She has a ranged attack. She shoots out from Majora's Mask, the bubbles that the Deku Scrubs can make and spit out. Although you never saw any other Deku Scrubs do that. It was just Link who could do that. But that's what her attack is. She shoots out the little explosive bubbles. Like the other Deku Scrub heroes and most Deku Scrub units, she can garrison onto the Orhat Beetles. So that's probably the best thing to do with her, is put her on the back of a beetle and have her run around and shoot enemies with her bubble attack. Her unique unit is the Flower Thopter, which is this flying unit right here. Because it's a flying unit, it can go over any terrain, so it can go up the cliffs here. Because it's also a flying unit, it can't be attacked by melee units. You can only attack them with archers. And archers will massacre these units, so you'll want to keep them away from other ranged units. Its attack, it drops Deku Nuts that stun enemies below it. So it's really good at, I guess crowd control, kind of. It doesn't do tons of damage. Its main purpose is to stun units. So, I don't know. I really like the Flower Thopter. I like the design too. This little dude with the two flowers. Deku Scrubs are weirdly cute, even though they're violent creatures that boil people alive. And that's a Nintendo canon too. That's not just something Nephi came up with. They boil their enemies alive in cauldrons. But yeah, that is the Flower Thopter. Third up is the canonical character this is based on is the Deku Butler Son, who is also the fourth Deku Scrub hero. But the Deku Butler Son technically never appeared alive. He appeared dead in Majora's Mask. He doesn't have a name, but in Nephi canon, his name is Kado. And he's this little tiny Deku Scrub here. He's the smallest Deku Scrub. And he walks around with this catapult that shoots out giant Deku nuts at enemies. So he is a siege hero. And his unique unit is kind of a siege unit too. It's the Baba-Lista. And what the Baba-Lista does is it launches a bunch of Deku Baba seeds, and there is a 25% chance that they will spawn into Deku Babas, which I will go ahead and demonstrate on this group of poor Gerudos up here. I like this unit. When I tested this out before the video, it actually took like 5 minutes for it to spawn a Deku Baba, even though there's a 25% chance. It was just really unlucky. And there, it spawned one. Actually, it spawned two of them. It spawned three. Yeah, there's a chance for it to spawn up to 4. It's between 1 to 4. So sometimes a shot will spawn 4 of them, and sometimes it won't spawn any. So yeah. Like I said, when I tested this out, it took like, what, 50 shots for it to spawn one. So now it looks like it's spawning them pretty frequently, though. Doing a pretty good job killing those Deku Babas, though. And now she finally realized where the attack's coming from. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked trying to kill this one Gerudo. Alrighty, let's get everyone back in position. That is the Baba-Lista, one of the cooler hero units in the game. Alrighty. I guess I will show the fourth Deku Scrub hero now, which is the Butler. In Nintendo canon, he doesn't have a name, but in Nephi canon, his name is just Kado. And he is a hovering hero. He can hover over any terrain, although he can't go up cliffs. I might change that, but at the moment, he can't go up like really steep terrain. He can just hover over water and things like that. And he deals fire damage, which is pretty rare for the Deku Scrubs. They are mostly units with physical projectiles. They don't have a lot of magic damage or fire damage, but he deals fire damage, which is really, really handy. And his unique unit also deals fire damage. His unique unit is basically just a smaller version of himself, and it's the Typher, which are basically, tax collectors. They go around collecting taxes from the Deku Scrubs, and if they don't pay up, they burn them with their candles. In the game, though, they just burn the enemies with the candles. You can't actually burn your own units with them. But like the Deku Butler, they're a hover unit, so they can hover over water and other terrain obstacles. They can't go over cliffs, though. That might change, but yeah, they're not classified as a mage unit, but they act like a mage unit where they deal, a bunch of fire damage. So yeah, that is the Typher. And those are the 4 Deku Scrub heroes and their 4 units. And now we will move on to the Lizalfos, which there are no canonical named Lizalfos characters in any of the Zelda games, despite the fact they've been in so many Zelda games. They don't have any characters. Even the Moblins have quite a few named characters. I think they're actually the only faction in the game that does not have canonically named characters off the top of my head. Actually, no, you could say there's a named Stalfos character, but yeah. So all of their characters are original characters don't steal, because there's no canonical Lizalfos characters, and they all have backstories, which you will find out in the next story part of the game, which involves Labrina, and I can't wait to get to that. The Lizalfos participate in that part of the story, and you'll find out about all four of these guys. But anyway, first up is Nardu the White, who is the acting queen of the Lizalfos and their various tribes. She and her unique unit are supposed to have the ability to convert enemy units. Now, on the Zero AD website thing, I read somewhere, it's gone now, but I read somewhere that their Roman heroes were able to convert enemy units, kind of like the monks from Age of Empires. However, when I finally got to working on the Lizalfos, and including her and her unique unit, there was no evidence at all in the game that the Roman heroes couldn't convert enemies. And I asked around, and apparently it's a planned feature. It's not actually in the engine. So, like stealth and like camouflage, her and her unique unit cannot do the thing they were designed to do yet. So, if you're playing as the Lizalfos, this hero, you probably won't want to pick them yet until we get conversion into the game. Yeah, her unique unit is called the Songsayer. And what the Songsayer does is it whispers basically hypnotizing words to enemies, and it converts them like monks from Age of Empires. But that is not in the engine yet, so her unique unit is kind of useless right now. It's just a straight up melee unit that deals pierce damage. Eventually it'll be one of the strongest unique units in the game because it can convert enemy units to your faction and you can use them. But in the meantime, it's just a generic melee unit. So if you're playing as the Lizalfos, you probably won't want to play as her yet until we get conversion into the engine. Supposedly the Zero AD team is doing it on their own, but I don't know, Exodarian might add it in before they do if they take too long. But anyway, the next Lizalfos hero, on the other hand, has a lot of really, really useful stuff that is in the engine already. And that is Vakat the Winged. He is an Aerolfos, and in Nephi lore, the Aerolfos used to be the leaders of the Lizalfos. I mean, they were under the Volvagians and the hierarchy, but they ruled over them, and after the Gorons kicked them off of Death Mountain and they went into exile, they all blamed the Aerolfos, and they're kind of mocked and made fun of now. They're basically the boomers of the Lizalfos. None of their kind likes them. But they're still pretty powerful. And of the 4 Lizalfos heroes, he is currently my favorite one to play as because of the stuff that he gives you. As a hero himself, he is a flying melee unit with a shield, kind of like the normal Aerolfos unit. So he's resistant to ranged attacks. So he's very hard to kill for a flying unit. You'll want mages to take him down. But his unique unit and abilities are really, really cool. He technically has 2 unique units. The main one is the fiery Aerolfos, which is this guy here. He is a flying mage that shoots out fireballs from a distance. He can't be killed by melee units, although he doesn't have a shield, so just normal archers can take him down really easily. But I really like this unit because the Lizalfos don't have any mages, so it's always good to have a mage-like unit for factions that don't have mages. Kind of like the Deku Butler and his unique unit. They don't have a lot of magic damage, but this unit deals fire damage, which is a pretty good substitute. So yeah, that is the fiery Aerolfos. It can fly, so obviously it can go over any terrain. It can fly over mountains and cliffs. It can fly over the water there. And they can get around anywhere on the map, so that's useful. The other kind of unique unit that he has, it's actually just a replacement for their workers. So if you select a Vakat at the start of a match, the workers get replaced with just a flying worker. So as a flying unit, it can go over any terrain, which is really, really, really useful, and it can go over water. And it can escape from enemies easier than normal workers. So if you're being harassed, these guys can get away from enemies easier and avoid being killed. However, as a compromise, they carry less than standard workers, so they do not gather resources as quickly. I think it's about a 20% reduction in speed. So that's kind of the trade-off if you pick him as a hero. His workers can't carry as much. But I still like having them because they're so mobile and they can get around the map so easily. And one of his techs is so cool that I just had to show it. His unique technology is the axe tails from Twilight Princess, and what it does is there are several Lizalfos units that when you upgrade them with this, it gives them axes on their tails that they use to attack enemies, so they kind of get like a double attack, which is really cool. And there's 4 units that get them. The 2 Dynalfos units get them, the Tree Hoppers get them, and one of their Chameleophos units get them. But I only placed these 2, so I'll just show these 2. So I'll go ahead and research his ability, and if you look on the tails, they'll spawn the little axes on them. Like so. And yeah, they basically, in addition to their sword attack, they'll swing their tails around and deal double damage, which is really cool. So, yeah, he's my favorite Lizalfos hero right now. He's got kind of he has 2 unique units, and he has one of the coolest technologies in the game that gives his units axes on their tails. So, yeah, Vakat the Winged. One of the cooler heroes in general, not just for the Lizalfos. I also like his character, but I won't go into his backstory until we get to the cinematics. Anyway, the third Lizalfos hero is Talik the Red, who is this really, really tall. I think she's like 12 feet tall. She's very, very tall. She is a hybrid of a Dynalfos and a Volvagian. So she's extremely powerful. She deals fire damage. And she is obsessed with retaking Death Mountain and restoring the old Volvagian tyranny. And her unique unit is the Mountain Matron. Actually, I think they're just called Matrons. They used to be called Mountain Matrons, but I just decided to call them Matron because they don't just live on mountains. Anyway, the Matron is a very powerful melee unit with a shield and really good armor. And it's hard to tell right now because glow effects are not in the engine. The 0AD team is supposedly adding them in the next version, which will be awesome. When it is added, you'll notice that the sword will glow very, very brightly, and whenever she attacks enemies or buildings, it ignites them on fire. So she deals not magic damage, she deals fire damage, which is very useful because the Lizalfos don't have any mages other than his Vakat's hero unit up there. So very useful for for dealing damage to units with heavy armor. And since it's fire, it's also good against buildings. So these units are able to ignite buildings on fire. So they're kind of a siege unit too. And they also deal knockback. So they send units flying, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that is the Matron. That is Talik's unique unit. And then the fourth Lizalfos hero is Okakusha the Green. She is a Chameleophos with stealthy stuff, but as I've said probably about 500 times in the last few videos, stealth and camouflage are not in the engine yet. They're low priority until we get to the Sheikah, so she's probably a hero you won't want to pick until later versions of the game. You'll probably mostly want to stick with Vakat and Talik since all of their hero stuff works in the engine right now. But Okakusha is a Chameleophos, and she's actually not native to Death Mountain. She's native to the forest, so her priorities are a little bit different than the other Lizalfos heroes since she has no connection to Death Mountain. But her unique unit is the Iguanalfos, which is this guy right here. The Iguanalfos is the Lizalfos from Skyward Sword. Design, I'm not really a fan of it. I always thought it was kind of a silly design, but I went ahead and made a few tweaks to it, and now it is a unit in Hyrule Conquest. They were also in the Medieval 2 version of the game, but I like them better in this one because they are a ranged unit that deals poison damage, which is really useful because it deals damage to it. Basically, if a unit has heavy armor, it does full damage, unless the unit has protection against forest elements, which is not many units in the game. But also another useful thing about this unit is it has no minimum range, so it will not run away when units get close to it, and it has the shield on its arm, so it is actually resistant to damage. So it's a ranged unit that is actually decent at engaging in close range and surviving in close range, which I'll go ahead and demonstrate here. I mean, this is a lot of Gerudo, so he's probably going to get killed by all of them eventually, but yeah, he spits out this poison, which is kind of hard to see because the sand is so bright, so I'll probably make it darker, but yeah, if you notice, he won't run away like most ranged units, and he'll engage them in melee. Oh. And yeah, I guess there's gonna be a big battle here now. So cool. Anyway, there was a nice little battle. So yeah, that is the Iguanalfos, which actually is a pretty decent hero unit. They're probably better on mass when you have a bunch of them, and then they can kill enemies before the enemies kill them because of their durability. So yeah, that's the Iguanalfos, and those are the Lizalfos heroes. And now we'll get to the best parts of any hero video, and that is the Titans. So first up, we have Stagnox, which is the Deku Scrub Titan. This awesome giant beetle with pretty heavy armor. That is pretty much his focus, his armor. He has one of the highest armor values for a Titan in the game. He's very hard to kill unless, let's say it with me, you have lots of mages. Siege weapons are also really good against him, although siege weapons are pretty much a good bet against any Titan unit, really. Except for smaller Titans like Fee. Siege weapons are always something you want to use against Titans, because they're such big targets that they're bound to be hit by your siege weapons, and siege weapons do lots of damage in general. So anyway, when active abilities are added into the engine, he'll also be able to fly for a limited distance. So you can have him like fly up the cliff here and have him hide up there while he regenerates health, or you can have him fly over this body of water. It's very limited flight though, like he can't just permanently fly around. He's not designed to be a flying Titan, but yeah, I'll go ahead and just demonstrate him slaughtering all these Gerudo up here before I get to the other Titans. I really like his animations too. And his sound effects are just really cool. Camel's like, I'm just gonna look the other way now. Just love knockback. I'm so happy EXO added that into the engine. That's so awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, he's barely taking any damage because of his armor. It's so cool. I love it when he flies up and then he just slams the ground. That's so cool. Anyway, that is Stagnox, the Deku Scrub Titan. One of my favorite Titans. Although I like both of the Lizalfos Titans more than him. Anyway, so the Lizalfos, because of the way their tech tree works, they have two different Titans. They can't get both of them in the same match. They'll end up with either one or the other, unless they're defeated before they get to the Titans, of course. But if you pick Garniel Og, the Helmasaur King, as your final god at your pantheon, you will be able to create Garniel Og, the Helmasaur King, which is this guy here. And he is a straight up siege titan, so he's really, really good at destroying buildings. He's still good at killing units, just not as good as like Stagnox. But his passive ability is that units that attack him in melee take slight damage from all of his spiny. It's not really an exoskeleton, just his spines and his tail. So he's always dealing damage to everything around him, even if he's not actively attacking them. It's not much damage, but if a huge army is engaging him in melee, they're going to take a long damage if they keep just fighting him and they don't get away. So he's both a siege titan and kind of a defensive titan at the same time. But yeah, he's mostly a siege titan, so good against buildings. And then the second titan that the Lizalfos can create, if you select Trinix as your final deity, is Trinix, which is also a creature from A Link to the Past, like the Helmasaur King. And this is a really, really bizarre titan because of his stats. He is a defensive mage titan, but he doesn't have much range, so he's also kind of a melee titan. He's a very bizarre mix of different roles, which is kind of cool. He deals both fire, water, ice, and crushing damage all at the same time. So he has a wide variety of damage types that he deals. Even though his armor stats aren't high, he's still resistant to practical weapons. Like, he's resistant to, hacking and pierce damage. He's actually not resistant to crush damage. So if you have units that deal crushing damage, they'll deal full, almost full damage to him. But you'll want to bring mages to fight against him, although he has some slight resistance to magic, so he's not completely vulnerable to mages. So to kill this guy, you'll want siege weapons and units that deal crushing damage. So units with maces, other siege units. So if you're going against another Lizalfos player, you'll want the Helmasaur King to fight him, because the Helmasaur King deals lots and lots of crush damage. Yeah, he deals 160 crush damage. So he'll be able to take off about, I think, a 1/7 of his health bar in one attack. No, less than that. More like a 17th, which is still not a lot. But so yeah, a really bizarre titan in terms of his stats. And I'll go ahead and show these two titans massacring more Gerudo up here. And I love both of these titans. They're some of my favorites. I think as a creature design, I like the Helmasaur King more, because the Ankylosaurus has pretty much always been one of my favorite dinosaurs, and he's clearly inspired by an Ankylosaurus. But I like the abilities of the Trinix more, and his his bizarre range of damage types is pretty cool. You'll have him come in from this side. You'll ignore that one. There we go. Double Titan battle. It's so awesome. I love Titans. Titans are like my favorite thing in this game. They're so cool. I just love how his head comes out and he eats them. It's so great. Little gazelle's getting flung in the air. That's so awesome. Yeah, he is barely taking any damage, but the Trinix, he's actually lost quite a bit of health because his armor values aren't as high. It's so awesome. Yeah, even though the Trinex has a higher death count compared to the Helmasaur King, just by the corpses under him. Because he's better at dealing damage to units compared to the Helmasaur King. Anyway, I think that's about it. No, one more. The last Gerudo. Alrighty. Those are the two Lizalfos Titans. And I think that is all I have to show for this video. Yeah, I can't think of anything else other than... Nope, that's pretty much it. Those are all the Deku Scrub heroes and the Lizalfos heroes. And they're awesome Titans. If you are a patron, you have already probably downloaded the Deku Scrubs and the Lizalfos and been play testing them and helped me find some bugs. I am going to release a little more polished version sometime in the next few days, and it'll have new maps to play on. What else is going to be included in it? There's something else. Oh yeah, I might add another minor faction into the game. It might be the Huskus if I have enough time. I haven't decided yet. But for the public, you will all be able to download the Deku Scrubs and the Lizalfos on Christmas. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it a Christmas release. I'll make some trailer next week. I'll put the trailer up that'll show the Deku Scrub and Lizalfos, and it'll say, comes out December 25th. But if you're a patron, you'll be able to download it instantly. So if you cannot wait until Christmas to try out the Deku Scrubs and the Lizalfos, you can become a patron and download them as soon as you're done watching this video. Any support on Patreon would be greatly appreciated. It'll help me work on this faster and full-time. Right now I can't really work on this full-time, so it'd be awesome if I could work on this full-time as my job, but I can't right now. But I don't know, I still think the pace I'm working on is okay. It's not as fast as I'd like, but it's not terrible. But anyway, those were the Deku Scrubs and the Lizalfos. Hopefully you think they're heroes and their hero units and their Titans look awesome, and hopefully you guys can't wait to download them and try them out. The next thing that I'll be working on is probably Labrina. They might be delayed a little bit because Exodarian and I really want to work on polishing the game a little bit. We want to finish the AI. Exodarian has been working on a brand new AI from scratch because the 0 AD AI is geared towards the factions in 0 AD. And obviously the factions in this game don't quite work like the ones in 0 AD. Tons and tons of people have been asking me, where's the Moblin and the Darknut AI? It's not in the game yet, and it won't be until Exodarian finishes with the AI, which is probably the thing he's going to be working on next. There's a few more features I want to add to the existing factions. I want to add some stuff to the Hylians, mostly for Link's unique unit. There's something I want to do for that. There's some other features I want to add for the existing factions, more mage-related stuff, or mage killers and resistance to magic, because some of the factions right now are very vulnerable to mages. Like, I think the Kokiri, Iron Wolf would know the answer to that. But so yeah, the next 2 to 3 months are probably going to be a polishing phase where you won't see a lot of new content. You'll see mostly fixes to things that are already in the game. And then after that, I'll probably start on Labrina, which, as far as I can tell, is the most insanely anticipated faction from most people. For some reason, people just fucking love Labrina. I don't know why. I mean, I don't hate the fact that people are obsessed with that faction. I just don't understand why so many people love them. They're basically a bunch of arrogant imperialist colonial powers that want to take over savage societies that are more primitive than them. They're kind of incredibly villainous and they're kind of assholes, but I don't know. People love Labrina. It must be the guns because they have guns. But anyway, hope you guys like these guys and look forward to more in the next few months. and I hope you all have a good one.
Hey, listen!